Hello and welcome to Executive Encore. This is the podcast dedicated to helping women, senior executives, business owners, and professionals through transitions in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. The podcast and its complementary blog speak to remastering life and work, especially as high-performing women prepare for their Executive Encore. Are you ready to step into your next step in your journey? Come with us to discover how you can channel your experience, your time, and your resources into creating meaningful change. This is your opportunity to leave a lasting impact while doing what you love. This Executive Encore of my guest today will share, as she says, this is the time to do good while doing well. I'm your host, Patricia Muir, and I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. Marcia is with us today. Marcia Dawood, a trailblazing advocate for empowering women with their money at any age and every phase. Marcia is the author of Do Good While Doing Well. She is a TEDx speaker, host of the Angel Next Door podcast, and an early stage investor with a mission to drive positive change. Marcia has dedicated her career to inspiring others to align their time, money, and values to create meaningful impact. Marcia is going to share with us today about making a difference in your Executive Encore and how to invest your time, resources, and money for impact and change. They are not finite, as most of us would hope, but they are not. So welcome, Marcia. It's very nice to see you today. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Patricia.
Now, I'd like to go right into investing in change. In your book, you emphasize investing in change, the change that we want to see in the world. We're all familiar with that. How can individuals align their investments with their values while aiming for financial returns in all stages of their life?
Yeah, so back in 2012, I was invited to an angel investing meeting. And I remember thinking, oh, cool. What's that? Like, I had no idea. I was not sure if we were going to start talking about the stock market or what was going on. But I was living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the time, and I was completely fascinated to learn that there are entrepreneurs in every city, in every town, working on all different types of innovation and changes that we want to see in the world. And it was happening right in my own backyard, and I had no idea. So I go to this first meeting, and I see a couple of entrepreneurs talking about their companies. And I thought, well, I can't get involved in this because I thought you needed a finance degree. I thought you had to be rich. I thought you had to be really well connected and all this stuff. Well, a lot has changed over the years, especially the last 5 to 10 years. And now anyone can get involved in helping entrepreneurial companies with their time, with their money, and really be able to help see the changes that they want to see in the world. Because like I said, there's things happening, innovation is happening in every city and every town. And so to me, it's really important that people start to know about this, because I would talk to people and they would say the same things that I thought. You have to be rich. You have to be well educated in like a certain area or something like that. You have to have a certain kind of degree, but that's simply not true anymore.
Could you give a quick example of what that looks like for someone who is not familiar with angel investing, how they would get involved?
Sure. So angel investing is simply when an individual uses their own money to invest in a for-profit company or a private company. So we hear a lot about the stock market. Okay. Those are public companies, and you can go onto a platform like E-Trade or Robinhood and you can trade a stock pretty easily nowadays, like in seconds. And private companies are a little different, and there are many, many, many more private companies than there are public companies. So in order to invest in a private company, usually that could be really located anywhere, like I said, because there's entrepreneurs everywhere. But usually what I tell people to do is to look around at what's happening in their own backyard. And that would be simply by doing an online search for maybe there is an angel investing group in your town. Maybe there's a startup event that's happening, and just start to learn about the entrepreneurs that are happening and the things that are going on right in your own backyard. And that's usually a good way to like learn about it and get started, because what happens sometimes is people will get excited, they'll start to meet entrepreneurs and they'll want to invest in those entrepreneurs with their money, which is great. However, I'm part of the Angel Capital Association. I'm on the board. I chaired the board for 2 years back in 2021 and through 23. And, we always say, look, you really want to take your time, look around, get to know some entrepreneurs, get to know the landscape a little bit before you would jump in and write a check. And that's what I love about this. You can get to know people. You can help entrepreneurs because they really need a lot more than just money. In some cases, they can really use help with building the company. It's really hard work to build a company that's scalable. And this is something that people can get involved with. And it's especially great for people who are in that kind of retirement phase, but they really don't want to retire, but they really want something fun and interesting to do. Getting involved with an entrepreneurial company means you can use your skills to help some of these companies, and you get to meet other people. I've met so many people I would have never met otherwise because they just weren't even in my industry. They weren't in my neighborhood or anything like that. And it's just been a really interesting experience on so many levels, not just the financial part. Of course, we do always hope for the financial rewards as well.
So that would be a great activity for someone who would be interested in looking at angel investing, not sure of what it's all about, but at this phase of their life going into their Executive Encore, they've got experience in other areas where they might be able to pull that together and have an interesting opportunity to learn more. And what you were saying about building a community, especially local. Like I know of a couple of local. I'm in Ontario, Canada, and I will put in a couple of links into the show notes. And Marcia, I would ask if you could give us a couple of links that are local in your area, or links that people would be interested in, our audience. I would appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you do mention it's not like a charity. It's different from charity, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
Could you quickly explain how that is different? It's not about a charity.
Yeah. So, I mean, charities are great. I always want to encourage people to support charities, support the nonprofits that are out there. But the amount of charitable giving in the US, it totals about $475 billion, which is a lot of money. However, that is only equivalent to about 1% of the value of the US stock market. So if we want to see really innovative change happen in the world, we're now taking a very small amount of money and asking all of these charities and nonprofits to do something that they don't have the capability of being able to do because they're just not funded to do so. So it's actually a burden to try to think that they are going to alone be able to solve all of the world's problems. I think what they're doing is fantastic, but we need to actually help them even more. And one of the things that we can do is we can help some of these for-profit companies who are working on the innovations in healthcare, climate, you name it. There's something being worked on. And in a lot of cases, it's being worked on at universities and then it's spun out of the university. But in a lot of cases, that's where you kind of see the dip. You'll see people who are working on really cool innovation. It looks like something great. You might even hear about it in your local neighborhood, like, hey, this is being worked on. Wouldn't it be great if that actually came to market? But then getting it from the university actually out to people to be able to use it is a very long and laborious process.
Right.
So that is where entrepreneurs come in. And that's where angel investors come in at the beginning. And then you see venture capitalists come in later with bigger dollars. And then you hope the company grows and it actually gets out to the people. So that's a little bit of the difference, so it's certainly not that charities aren't great, but we can't expect them to solve all the world's problems.
So in a way, we're making an impact from a different route.
Exactly, a different angle. Yeah, totally.
That's good. That's good to know. Okay. And do you believe that angel investing is accessible for everyone? You have mentioned it before, but give us an example of how we could break down some barriers for participation.
Yeah, there's two main ways. So back in the day, you did have to have quite a bit of money. It would be like thousands of dollars in order
Mhm.
to make an investment into an early stage company. However, in 2016, the US Securities and Exchange Commission, they changed the rules so that now anyone can invest in an early stage company for as little as $50 through what's called equity crowdfunding. And there are equity crowdfunding sites on the internet that you can go look at. There are three in particular that hold the majority of the market share. They're called, we can put them in the show notes, Republic, WeFunder, and Start Engine. And basically what people can do is they can go onto one of these platforms and they can take a look around. I love this idea for people just to be able to look. Don't invest. You don't have to invest anything right away. Just you can look around, you can see what kind of companies are fundraising, the
Mhm.
types of innovations. I'm always fascinated to see what people are doing, what they're working on, because I worked in corporate America for a really long time and I just was kind of doing the same old thing. And all of a sudden I learn about these entrepreneurial companies and I thought, wow, have I been living under a rock? This is crazy. I love this. I
Yeah,
love learning about this.
yeah.
So that's one way.
Mhm.
So I always encourage people to do that. And we'll put some things in the show notes so that people can try it out.
Okay.
And the other thing is, and this is something that's a little bit newer, just from the standpoint of how it's done. But there is a way that you can take philanthropic dollars and use them to invest in a for-profit company before they would actually go to the charity. And I love this because it can actually triple your impact. If you take so let's say $100 and you put it into a donor advised fund and then you were able to use that money in order to invest into a for-profit company, there's a potential that $100 could turn into $500. And because you've now helped that for-profit company to be able to grow, that $500 would now go back into your donor advised fund and could then be used as charitable giving to a 501c3 or some other nonprofit
Okay.
in the future. So that's something people aren't really talking about a lot. It does get a little complicated because in a lot of cases you would need to have a donor advised fund, but a lot of people have those, and you'd have to have one that was where it was self-directed. You would be allowed to do that, but they are definitely out there if people are interested. And I think in a lot of cases, I've talked to a lot of women, especially, who really like this idea because now they can feel like they're doing both. They're actually donating to charity and they're able to help for-profit companies. And women only get about 3% of the investment dollars that these entrepreneurial companies are getting. So we need to change that, and this is one of the ways we can do that.
If you're right at the beginning of your journey, and you've given some great information for women in the United States, where would a woman in Canada start? Like, have you any idea who we would reach out to at least get a start on this?
So in Canada, I do have several angel investor friends, entrepreneurial friends in Canada. There's a lot going on there. There is a national association in Canada that is a great place to start. That would be where I would send people to be able to find out about what's going on in the whole country. And then, of course, there's going to be pockets, toward the bigger cities where you can reach out and see. There's a lot of angel groups throughout
Mhm.
your country. So
Mhm.
like I said, lots of places to look. Just a couple simple searches online would probably get you there.
Yeah, I asked that question, and then I thought, yes, there's a lot of peer advisory, peer networking groups for women entrepreneurs, also accelerator groups where they're all
Yes.
part of a great hub for connecting with whatever question you may have. So it's probably a question for me to bring to some of the accelerators about angel investing. I know some of them do have contacts, but you know I will put some links in the show notes as well to help Canadian women identify
Yes.
where they can go next. Okay, thank you very much. So we've talked about the angel investing. There's also about our time and
Mhm.
our energy. Okay, so your message focuses on how people can rethink their use of time and money. Can you elaborate a little more on that and what it looks like in practice?
Sure. So I wasn't, like I said, I didn't even know that this whole world existed when I first got involved. And I was just so interested, and I would meet an entrepreneur and, talk to them. In some cases I got very involved. In some cases people can become a board member or an advisor to the company. But what I found is that there are people who have all different types of skills. So I know a lot of people might be sitting there thinking to themselves, well, I don't have the right skills. I would need to be in finance, or I would need to have this. No. There are so many things about building a company, that so many different skills that are needed. So think about if somebody worked in human resources, or even bookkeeping, or like anything managerial, really any kind of business, any type of skill that has been done out in the real other world and now can be translated into entrepreneurial world is super, super helpful. And so I always encourage people, if you're interested and you like learning about these new companies and the things that they're doing, go ahead and just get to know a couple of them. And you'd be surprised how you can start to use your time in order to help these companies. And in a lot of cases, if you do become an advisor or a board member, there is compensation through equity that you get in the company. And then if the company does well, you could end up getting a nice return that way too.
I've noticed in the past year or so the rise in fractional CEOs, CFOs,
Yes.
COOs. So if a woman has that kind of experience in a large corporation, coming out of the corporation, that's her identity. Now she can shift that into this kind of giving back, but also with the rewards. You were saying, if you're a board member, there is compensation. And I know many programs, the accelerator programs in Canada, there is compensation for your time. So that is a great way of using your experience, your time, and the money that you've invested in your own development.
Yeah.
For women executives and entrepreneurs that are transitioning in their career phases, like a new career phase, how could they integrate these concepts into their professional and their personal lives in particular?
Well, I'll be honest, I wish that I would have known a lot more about this space when I was still working in corporate America, because what I learned is from talking to entrepreneurs, looking at their different business models, the things that they're working on, the types of innovations that they're trying to improve on, I thought to myself, wow, if I had known this when I worked in my corporate job, I might have thought differently about how I was approaching some of the things that I was doing in my everyday job. And that could have led me to better success in the things I was doing every day. So I really would encourage people just to get involved in some of these things so that they can learn about it, learn the different ways. Maybe it makes your brain work a little bit differently, and you start to meet different people through all different types of industries, which could actually help you in your professional career as well.
So you have answered a question that I usually ask, and it's a segue into every moment matters. So there was a point when you identified that if you had been in this environment before, you would have been able to remaster your work and life to sort of fit quickly into that transition.
That's right.
Could you tell us a little bit about the timing of when you acknowledged that there was something different for you, a next step?
Yeah, I think part of it was I was one day I was having a discussion, we'll call it, with my husband, who really likes to golf. And he was out ready to golf for another round, and I just thought to myself, why does this have to take so long, and like so much like yoga class, everything, like can't it just be the same amount of time? Anyway, after that, one day he comes home and he says to me, I just got to golf with the CEO of some big company. And I thought to myself, that's it. Like, I'm looking for something like that, because I watched him learn and get to know a lot of different people in a lot of different industries. And he would say, well, I just got, a connection to this, a connection to that. And they all helped him with his career. And I thought, well, I want, where's my golf course? And people sometimes would say to me, well, why don't you just play golf? And I'd be like, okay, I don't want to play golf. All right. But I found that angel investing was one of those places. And I thought to myself, well, this is pretty cool. Like now I've kind of found my golf course. I learned to pick up different skills. I learned about different industries, and I got to meet the people that could potentially help me in my own career as I was advancing. And I just thought, what a win-win.
This is so valuable. Thank you for sharing that, because it's also an all season activity, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there anything else that you would like to share? Is there one key takeaway that you hope that listeners will take today?
I hope that people will hear this and think to themselves, this is something that I could do. It's accessible to me. It used to not be that accessible. And when I talk to people and they would think there's all these myths, oh, I have to be rich, I have to be this, that. And I just think if we talk about it more, if we bring awareness to it, then more people are going to get involved. And my dream is that more and more and more people get involved with their time, with their money, and it actually elevates us as a society and us as people to be able to have those innovations and those changes that we want to see in the world. So imagine if all of the things, like all the healthcare innovation that's being worked on out there, for example, let's just say that really got the boost it needed. And all of a sudden treatments and some, cures for different diseases were actually accessible to people. Those are the things that I really care about. And I think if more people knew about this, they would act and they would take that time and that extra step in order to know that they can help to be the change they want to see in the world. And that could mean some pretty cool stuff could happen in the future.
Mm-hmm. You've inspired me. And I just want to let our listeners know, too, that this is a place where if you look into femtech,
Yes.
that's a place where you can invest and you can get more involved in femtech. You really inspired me on this. Thank you very much. And I want to encourage listeners to follow Marcia on LinkedIn and her website. You'll see it in the ticker below, and explore her podcast as well, The Angel Next Door. I'd like to promote her book today, so go on to her website. You'll see Do Good While Doing Well, and I encourage you to learn more by visiting Marcia's website. I do want to mention that Marcia has a role as an associate producer role in the award-winning documentary Show Her the Money, which reflects her advocacy for closing gender investment gaps, which I think is very valuable in our community, as Marcia said, as she pointed out. Thank you, Marcia. And thank you to our listeners. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Executive Encore. This is where your Executive Encore begins. So don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with other women in your network. You deserve to have a place in this world where you contribute after you leave your corporate job and feel that level of self-actualization that you are seeking in your life. Please visit my website at patriciamuir.com and read my weekly blog. Marcia will be featured in the Sunday Encore on Sunday, February 2nd. And please sign up for the newsletter so you don't miss that. All links to access information about Marcia and myself are in the show notes. Until next time, take care of yourself, do what's best for you, and don't jeopardize what you built for yourself. Have a great day.